Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. The Game Week 1 deadline is tomorrow and I cannot believe I'm saying that, but in today's video we have my Game Week 1 team selection. This is what it has all been building towards. What is the 15-man squad looking like that I'm going into Game Week 1? We'll find out today. If you did enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, as I said, the Game Week 1 deadline is tomorrow, and as I said that in the intro, I felt a little bit nervous, a little bit sick, but also very, very excited as well. And can I please make one massive request at the start of this video? If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel and you get any use, entertainment, information out of today's video, please do consider subscribing. I do these team selection videos every week along with 4 other series on my channel every single week as well. So if you want plenty of content to help you win your mini leagues, I'm here for you. Please do consider subscribing. I'm pushing for 160,000 by the Game Week 1 deadline, and I can only do that with your support. But for everyone that has supported during pre-season, I am so appreciative. So, like I said, this is what it all comes down to, because we could talk about differential players. This player's below 5%, consider them. But really, which 15 players are you putting in your squad? That's the key thing that it comes down to ahead of that Game Week 1 deadline. So let's discuss it. I have, of course, used all 100 million of my budget. I'm very jealous to those that have managed to put together a squad that they want that has money in the bank. I am not one of those people, but I am very happy with my squad. So let's start with the goalkeeper situation. Pretty much all of pre-season, I have had a 5 million goalkeeper and a 4 million. I don't really want to spend more than 9 million on my goalkeepers. I mean, ideally, it would be nice to spend 8.5, but I really just don't love any of the 4.5s. If I was to choose a 4.5 goalkeeper, it would probably be Kelleher, Petrovic, or Verbruggen, but none of them strike me as being a real standout. Like, normally each year I look at one option and I say, yeah, I think they're either playing in a really good defense or they'll make tons of saves. I love their fixtures. None of those three have particularly great fixtures. None of them play for defenses where I think they'll get clean sheets and lots of saves. They just, and none of them really rotate particularly well either. It's not even like you can pick 2 of them that I think have a perfect rotation. And I always feel pretty uncomfortable rotating goalkeepers anyway. So what I keep coming back to is a 5 million and a 4 million. And for me, there are 3 5 millions that I've been looking at: Sanchez, Henderson, and Sells. I think in isolation, Sells may well be the best 5 million goalkeeper. However, I also really like the Nottingham Forest defenders, and I'm not fully convinced enough, despite them keeping 5 clean sheets in 7 games in pre-season, to go for double Nottingham Forest defence. So for that reason, if I like the Forest defenders, I'm probably not going to go for Sells, which then leaves Henderson and Sanchez, and I just think that Chelsea are a marginally better defence overall. Like last season, they were 3rd for non-penalty expected goals conceded, Chelsea. They are, by all accounts, a really decent defence. Sanchez has looked a little bit better in recent months, fewer mistakes. And again, I don't really love a lot of the other Chelsea defenders, and they've got slightly better fixtures than Crystal Palace. So for all of those reasons, I've got Sanchez in. I know obviously Colwill picked up an ACL injury. Chalobah limped off in their most recent pre-season game. I just think that even if Colwill is out for the entire season, I still think that Sanchez will be a really good value pick, and I still think Chelsea will keep clean sheets. So yes, it probably does make Chelsea 10 to 15% worse defensively, but I don't think that necessarily writes Sanchez off as an option. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, as of right now, Sanchez and Dubravka. Dubravka is flagged at the moment. He might not start Game Week 1. He might not be available come Game Week 2. It doesn't really bother me. I'm going to start Sanchez every week. And as you can already see by glancing at my bench, I do not plan at the moment on bench boosting in the early game weeks. I'm probably either just going to have no plan for the bench boost, or I'm sort of eyeing up around AFCON time. It's not the perfect time of the season to bench boost, but we're going to have to sell Salah, which does free up funds. Also, going into game week 16, we get 5 free transfers. So if you wildcard between 10 and 13, you're obviously going to have a really good team. You're then going to get 5 free transfers around game week 16, and you're going to sell Salah. It might just open itself up for a sort of late end of the first half of the season bench boost, like somewhere between 16 and 19. Not perfect, but basically, I think I've not fully ruled out a bench boost early on, but I'm definitely not planning for it. So yeah, that's the goalkeeper situation. In terms of the defence, I keep going back and forth on this, right? Because we've got the new defensive contribution points, and there are some defenders that look unbelievable for that. Tarkowski's one of them. Murillo looks really good. And I do think defensive contribution points will be a really good way to pick up and accumulate points across the season. But I also like having fun in FPL. And I want to pick players that I'm excited by and I think have attacking threat and I want to watch on a weekly basis. When I have them in my team, I'm excited to own them. And something you'll know if you followed my content for a while, I do play to the best of my ability, and I have some pretty good ranks to go alongside that. Last year I finished 12.6k. Not exceptional, but still good enough. But I like to have fun and pick players that I want to own. I won't pick boring players just for the sake of optimizing points. So, as a result, I've got some fun picks in here, I think. Let's start with some of the more sort of template picks. I do have Nico Williams. I want a Nottingham Forest defender. I think Milenkovic and Murillo are both better picks than Nico Williams. I absolutely believe that. They are 0.5 million better than him. But finding 0.5 million at the moment is easier said than done. So for that reason, I just am really struggling to find that extra 0.5 to get from Williams to Milenkovic or Murillo. The reason I'm a little bit hesitant on Nico Williams, Nottingham Forest in the last week have inquired about 2 different left-backs, Tsimikas and Leif Davis. Nothing is fully developed there, but they are very clearly looking for some backup at left-back. Now, it could be that Nico Williams still starts every Premier League game, or even if a Leif Davis or Tsimikas joins, he might even push out to right-back, and it might be Ola Aina that drops out. For what it's worth, I think Aina and Williams are so nailed in terms of the Premier League that they'll start pretty much every game. But there would be some doubt creeping in if they do sign a very capable left-back. And also, obviously, we know that Milenkovic has incredibly good goal threat, and we know that Murillo is really, really good for baseline bonus and defcon. So yes, I do believe the 5.5 Forest defenders are better. I'm just struggling, but I do think that Nico Williams offers great value. He's got decent attacking threat from open play. He's decent enough for bonus. And because of the way that Forest defend, right? If you think about what defensive contribution points are, CBIT, clearances, blocks, interceptions, tackles, Forest defends so deep that he's constantly having to clear the ball, make blocks. In terms of fullbacks, he is one of the better ones for defensive contribution points. So I really like Nico Williams for those reasons. And again, if I can find the extra 0.5 somehow, which I'll discuss later because there are ways to do it, then maybe that's a place I look to upgrade. Another player I'm so excited by, I've had him in my draft for over a week now, is actually Pedro Porro. I'm seeing more and more people add him now. During pre-season, he has looked pretty nailed on. He's looked very good for defcon points. I'm actually recording this during the Super Cup, so hopefully I don't say anything silly. I don't expect Thomas Frank to turn Spurs into a top 4 defence, by the way. Like, some people seem to be under the impression that he's going to turn them into an absolute defensive unit. I don't think so. We saw Brentford. Do you remember at the G-Tech last season and the season before? They're just like 4-4 half their games seem to be. They will concede a lot of goals, Spurs. But I do think that he will improve them defensively. I'm not expecting them to be a bottom half of the table team in terms of XGC. So I think we'll see a little bit of an upturn in their defensive data. And Pedro Porro takes set pieces. He's good for defensive contributions. He's not bad for baseline bonus. And he's also an incredibly good footballer with a nice strike on him. So he could score the odd goal from outside the box. He can whip in a beautiful cross as well. So I feel like with Pedro Porro, you've got fixtures, attacking threat, defcon. He's got a bit of everything you want, and I love that opening day game against Burnley at home. Like, that looks like one of the better chances for a clean sheet. So yeah, I really like Pedro Porro as an option, and I think he's obviously 0.5 cheaper than a lot of the other 6 million options, and I think he's worth that. Like, I really think it is worth going for him in this team. There are other 5.5s that I love, though. Like I said, Tarkovsky, I love the Forest defenders. Munoz is a player I would love to have in this team, but Pedro Porro just about stays in the team for now. So yeah, those two I've seen in a lot of drafts. I've then got a 4.5 million rotation between Juve and Dorgu. And what you're going to see on your screen now, I'll flash it up, is a screenshot courtesy of FotMob. And we'll talk about FotMob a little bit throughout today's video. But here you can see a couple of their lineups from pre-season for Manchester United and for West Ham. And what we've got with Juve and Dorgu is they're both playing left wing back in a 3 at the back or a 5 at the back system. But what that means is they're not particularly defensive players. Like, they're not particularly good defenders. So they basically play as left wingers when their team has the ball. If you've watched any of Juve during pre-season, he has been remarkable. He, again, is playing like a left winger. The game against Bournemouth, he got the assist and a pre-assist where if Jared Bowen had actually connected with the cross, Juve would have picked up 2 assists in that game. He's got a really decent end product. For Slavia Prague last season in the league, Juve picked up 9 attacking returns. That is very, very good. So do I expect West Ham to keep lots of clean sheets? No. Do I expect Manchester United to keep lots of clean sheets? No. I could absolutely go for players like Richards or Anderson of Fulham. There are definitely 4.5 centre-backs out there that will be good for defcon and probably playing better defences. You could even go for some like a Van de Ven or a Konsa. I'm not sitting here trying to convince you to go for Juve and Dorgu, but back on the concept of I want to have fun in FPL. I want to do things in FPL which make me want to return to my team every week and pick players that excite me. I'm kind of happy chasing the upside with Dorgu and Juve because these are two players that on their day, they can go absolutely massive because of how close they get to goal in comparison to some of the other defenders. So you're probably not getting many DEFCON points. You're probably not getting many clean sheets. But I guess the hope is that you get some attacking returns. This is certainly not optimal. If you plug your team into a model or an algorithm, they will not tell you to pick players like this. But they excite me. The other thing that I like about Juve and Dorgu is they've actually got really nice fixture rotations. So in a lot of the weeks that you wouldn't really want to play Juve, you can play Dorgu and vice versa. Like even game week 1, Dorgu's got Arsenal. I'm very happy playing Juve against Sunderland. So they actually rotate semi-well too. I've then got a Stev or a Steve on the bench. Different people say different things. It's either a Stev or a Steve. I've got him on the bench as a 4 million Burnley defender. I do think that Bijol and Rodon this season will outscore the Burnley 4 million defenders. So I think if you're looking across the season and you want the best 4 million defender, Bijol and Rodon for me are the ones. Bijol's obviously suspended in game week 1, so if you need one for game week 1, go Rodon. The reason I say that is last season in the Championship, Leeds actually had slightly better XGC than Burnley. The difference between the two teams was Trafford and Melia. So I actually think Leeds are arguably just as good as Burnley defensively. And I just think Leeds will have a bit more joy in the Premier League. The reason, therefore, I've got that Steve in my team is because in game week 2, Williams has Palace away, Pedro Porro's got City away, Juve's got Chelsea at home, and Dorgu's got Fulham away. None of my 4 defenders have a particularly good game week 2 fixture, whereas he's obviously got Sunderland at home. Now, I am aware that you are still then playing a Burnley defender, and it might be best to just play my attacking defenders in like Porro, Juve, and Dorgu. But I like to at least have that option there. So that's the reason I've gone for him. But if you don't need a defender in game week 2, I would just pick probably Rodon or Bijol. I think Bijol is probably my favourite 4 million defender. So there we go. That is the defensive setup right now. In terms of players that therefore I am missing, tons of players that I would love to have. Again, I mentioned some of the 5.5s I think are excellent. At 4.5, I'd really like Joachim Andersen. And where Dorgu is in my team, about half an hour before I recorded this, I actually had Andersen instead of Dorgu in the graphic. But I kind of want Dorgu. It's just picking players that I want to have in my team. But I think Andersen is a really nice shout. I also think Richards is really good because Richards and Crystal Palace rotate really nicely with Spurs. So if you've got Pedro Porro, Romero, or Van de Ven, having a Palace defender gives you a really nice rotation there. There are other 4.5s. Agbadu, I think, is another really nice shout as well. De Cowper of Brighton, fantastic. This is then not even mentioning the fact that in this team, I don't have a 6 million defender. I don't have Van Dijk, Frimpong, Gabriel, Gvardiol, Ait Nuri, Kukureya. There are tons of defenders I'm missing, but you can't own everyone. I have gone a little bit cheap in this defence. Some of you will look at this and say, that is way too cheap in the defence. I'd rather go big at the back. That's absolutely fine. When you look at my 7 starting attackers, you'll have a bit of an idea about why I've gone cheap on the bench, and you have to sacrifice somewhere. In FPL, it's always the way. You can't own everyone. But this season in particular, it's so difficult to build a good team that you will have to sacrifice in either the defence, the midfield, or the attack. And I have chosen to just go a little bit cheaper in the defence. So let me know what you think of the goalkeeper and back 5 situation. Let's now take a look at the midfield 5. So guys, moving on to the midfield 5, and this is where I am at my happiest looking at this midfield 5. At the moment, it is Florian Wirtz, Mohamed Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Cole Palmer, and Tijani Reinders. So let's go through this. Let's start with Mohamed Salah. You'll know that I am very, very interested in going without Mohamed Salah this season. And it's not clickbait. It's not just for content. Last season, to my own detriment, I started the season without Erling Haaland. Everyone kept saying, you're not doing that. It's just for the content. I'm very happy to go different if I think it is the right decision. And I think it is extremely close this season as to whether it is the correct decision to go without Mohamed Salah. But because it is so close, why not start with the player that just got 344 points, is the most expensive player in the game, and for me is the best Game Week 1 captain? If I thought it was quite a bit in favour of going without him or going for a Haaland draft instead, then I would absolutely do that. But like I said, because it is close, it makes sense in my mind to just go a little bit safer at the start with the most expensive player. Again, start with the player that I feel most comfortable captaining in Game Week 1 against a Bournemouth defence which has been decimated in the transfer window. And if I'm right/wrong, and he doesn't have the strongest start to the season, let's say Salah scores 1 in 3, looks pretty weak, after the Burnley game, I can always downgrade him. Going into Game Week 5-6, you can downgrade him or switch the funds to Haaland, who faces Burnley in Game Week 6. That is a lot easier for me to do the downgrade and spread the funds than if you spread the funds at the start and then realise you made a mistake and Salah goes nuclear in the first 3, and then you realise that you've either got a wild card or take loads of transfers to bring him in for that Burnley game. So it is a little bit risk averse, and that's not normally the way that I play, but I also feel like I don't want to lose FPL at the start. Like, you can't win FPL in the opening few weeks, but you can certainly lose it. I really hope for those that go for it, it goes well for you, because it's a brave call, but one which I do think makes sense, because you can build a really strong team. And if you go with Haaland instead, Haaland is an exceptional FPL asset. I am not definitely going with Salah, by the way, but I'd say I'm about 85-90% sure now. I just think that this is the way that I want to start. And when I look at my squad with Salah in it, I don't actually feel like I've sacrificed that much. So yeah, Mohamed Salah stays in the team for now. The other three then expensive players, Palmer, Fernandes, Wirtz. Let's go Palmer first. Cole Palmer has been in pretty much all of my drafts. In fact, I don't actually know if I have taken him out in pre-season. I do think that him versus Bukayo Saka is probably a lot closer than we're giving credit for, because Bukayo Saka is an exceptional FPL asset. Because of his injury last season, I think we forgot just how good he is. The only small question mark around Saka is whether he's on penalties, but we have seen really good assets like Ollie Watkins in previous seasons do very well even without penalties. And we don't know that Gyökeres is on penalties. Saka could still be first choice. But that is enough of a question mark for me. I also don't love the opening fixtures for Arsenal, whereas I think they are pretty good for Palmer. The only slight thing that's making me then think, could I go for Bukayo Saka? I am not fully confident that I will captain Palmer in any of the opening 5 weeks. Whereas if I went for Bukayo Saka, there's a very good chance I'd captain him in game week 2 against Leeds. So yeah, I think I will go for Cole Palmer. I just think I'll trust my initial instinct, which was to put him in. But I do think going for Bukayo Saka instead, or alongside Salah and Palmer, and then losing someone like Bruno Fernandes, that's definitely a viable option. Like, for example, rather than Fernandes and Wirtz, you could go for Saka and Gakpo. So I'm considering all of that. But for now, I just think I want Salah and Palmer in my team. Again, the two most expensive midfielders, I can always downgrade them from there. I've then got Fernandes and Wirtz, and a lot of people have to choose one of these if they want to go with Watkins, or you omit Watkins to have the pair of them. It's difficult to get a midfield that involves Wirtz, Salah, Fernandes, Palmer, but I just don't want to sacrifice Fernandes or Wirtz. I think they are both excellent assets in their own right. I don't even need to compare them in this team, because I want both of them. I do think that everything is set up probably for Florian Wirtz to have a better start to the season. Like, if you look at the fixtures, they're decent enough for both, but also some bad fixtures in there. But I'd probably marginally prefer the Liverpool fixtures. Liverpool are also just a significantly better team and a better attack than Manchester United. And Florian Wirtz has looked really good in pre-season. And he's on set pieces, like some set pieces. Everything is pointing towards him having a really strong start to the season. And I love that opening fixture against Bournemouth at home. So I really want Florian Wirtz in there, and I just feel like he could make a mockery of that 8.5 million price tag. But then when I look at Bruno Fernandes, he's put up very similar numbers to Florian Wirtz. Again, Wirtz was in a different league, but very similar underlying numbers last season. Plus he's got penalties. Plus he's a bit of a DEFCON monster for an attacking player. Last season, Fernandes would have picked up an additional 22 DEFCON points. And if we assume that he's probably going to play a little bit deeper this season because Cunha, Mbeumo, Sesko, he just won't play the number 10 as often, he might even pick up more DEFCON points. So he's basically, for me, a slightly less attacking sort of version of Wirtz, but you add penalties and you add DEFCON. For me, if I was to only select one of Bruno or Florian Wirtz, I would probably go for Bruno Fernandes. So I think he is a better asset, but I kind of want both of them. I'm getting a lot of questions, but Ross, isn't Fernandes going to play much deeper? Isn't he going to play in the pivot? On paper, yes, Fernandes will line up as part of a midfield 2 in the pivot. He doesn't play in the pivot. He will have to do a lot more defensive work, but he's got the engine and work rate for it. And again, that will mean that he'll pick up more defensive contribution points. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then as soon as Man United get the ball, he'll be involved in the progression of that ball, but he does not play as part of a midfield 2 pivot when we have the ball. He basically plays as an advanced 8 or as a number 10, even when he is in that midfield 2. So I don't want you to have this idea in your head of Bruno Fernandes just sitting between the centre-backs and not getting forward. He absolutely will. And we know even if he is a little bit deeper, he's got an eye for a pass. Sesko is brilliant at running the channels. You've got the likes of Cunha and Mbeumo finishing the chances now. This is a much better Manchester United attack. Last season, if you added DEFCON points, Bruno would have achieved 193, I think it was, FPL points. Everything is set up for him to have a 200-point FPL season. So, yeah, and I actually think that Bruno Fernandes is one of the better captaincy options in Game Week 3. When Salah plays Arsenal, obviously you wouldn't want to captain Saka in that week. Palmer's got Fulham at home. You've got Man City have Brighton away. Fernandes has Burnley at home. You could argue that Bruno Fernandes is one of the better captaincy options in 3. So for me, he's not a non-negotiable, but I do want Bruno Fernandes in my Game Week 1 team. There are so many people that watch these videos that get so angry when I mention Bruno. That's fine. Like, if you don't want to pick Bruno, absolutely don't. In fact, if you think Bruno's a bad option, you should love content creators talking about Bruno, because it means lots of other people make the same mistake, right? So if you don't agree with it, that is absolutely fine. I'm just trying to explain why I think he could be a really nice FPL asset. So yeah, that is a pretty heavy four, right? Vert, Salah, Fernandes, Palmer, which means I need a cheaper fifth midfielder. And with this current setup, I can get to 5.5 million. So again, courtesy of FotMob, I'm going to flash up on your screen a comparison between my two favourite midfielders at 5.5, which is Elliot Anderson and Tijani Reinders. These are two very different picks. If you actually have a look, what I've put is the player traits of each of the players. So Elliot Anderson is in the 49th percentile for goals. So he's, for players that play his position, he's not going to get you a ton of goals. Last season, he scored 2 goals in the Premier League. In terms of chances created, 73rd percentile. So he'll get some assists. He had 6 assists last season, not going to score too many goals. But you can see 79th percentile for defensive actions. So this is a player, again, that will pick up good DEFCON points. We saw last season, he would have picked up 36 additional points through DEFCON. And he could have additional set pieces this year because Anthony Elanga has left and joined Newcastle. So with Anderson, you've got great minutes, great fixtures, good DEFCON, great DEFCON in fact, decent levels of creativity, but very limited goal threat. Elliot Anderson will be an exceptionally good FPL asset for his price this season. I absolutely urge you to at least consider Elliot Anderson. So why is Elliot Anderson not in my draft? And remember what I said about Jufen Dorgu? I want to chase the upside. I want to pick players that excite me in FPL. Elliot Anderson doesn't excite me. That doesn't mean that he's not a good option. It also doesn't mean that he won't be in my team come Game Week 1. But when you look at Tijani Reinders, he is in the 97th percentile for shot attempts. He is in the 97th percentile for goals. He is in the 2nd percentile, 2% for defensive actions. This is not a man that will sit there and do the Rodri role. Even in the absence of Rodri, Tijani Reinders, I do not believe, will be the player that sits there and does the Rodri role. He will not pick up many defensive contribution points this season, but he has it in his locker, I think, to have a Gundogan-esque season. Was it the 2021 season where Gundogan got like 12, 13 goals? Tijani Reinders is a player that can go get 12 to 15 goals. Look at what he did for AC Milan. Look at what he did in 45 minutes against Palermo in pre-season, picking up the brace. He should have had a hat-trick. He could have had 4 goals in that game. He had 4 shots in the box. I do not want you to mistake Tijani Reinders for a number 6. He's not going to sit there in the pivot. He is basically an advanced number 8. He will get in the box hell of a lot, but his minutes aren't as good. The fixtures aren't as good. He won't tick along with defensive contribution points. You need to get it right under the assumption that he's going to score goals. If he doesn't score the goals, Elliot Anderson will be a much better pick. So again, how much do you want to chase that upside? I want to make it very clear. Tijani Reinders and any Man City player will not be nailed under Pep Guardiola. As much as you think they might be, they will not. So yeah, at the moment, I've chased the upsides with the likes of Juve, Dorgu and Reinders, as opposed to I could easily go Anderson in defence for Fulham, Anderson in midfield for Forest, and then like Richards on the bench. They would arguably be 3 more optimal picks, but I don't play FPL for optimal. I play FPL to have fun with it. So yeah, that's the reason Juve, Dorgu and Reinders are in there. That midfield 5 looks great. I've got 2 Liverpool players, a Chelsea player, a City player, and then Bruno Fernandes. I just really like that midfield 5, and it's very difficult for me to move away from it now once I've put that into my team. So let's look at the front 2, consider the team all together, and then at the end of the video, don't click off, because what I'm going to do is show you how the team might change ahead of Game Week 1 and other possible combinations that I'm looking at. So as a result of that big boy midfield 5, I do have to go a little bit cheaper in the forward line. So as of right now, I have Ollie Watkins, Fulkrug and Guiu on the bench. Is this an ideal setup or balance? Absolutely not. You would have heard me talk about flexibility and price points before. This is not an ideal situation. Apart from Watkins, I'm just not covering that sort of 7.5 million forward price point. And I think there are loads of really interesting 7.5 forwards. In particular, Mateta and João Pedro really interest me at 7.5. I think they'll both look like excellent value throughout the season. So I would really like to have one of them in there. But if I do that, I have to lose one of Watkins versus Bruno. I sat down and had a long, hard think about this, and I urge you to do the same. List all of the key expensive players in FPL and say who are the ones that you would be least willing to sacrifice on. Who are the ones that you really do not want to lose in your team? Because after I put Salah and Palmer in there, let's say I want those 2 expensive players, the 3 players that I did not want to lose and I was not really willing to sacrifice were Watkins, Fernandes and Verts. So what I did is I put them in, and then I just filled out the rest of the team. And when I filled out the rest of the team, I actually quite liked it. And now for me, it's very, very difficult to lose any of them to upgrade elsewhere. So something I could do is like Florian Wirtz down to... So I need to free up 1.5 million to get to João Pedro. So Florian Wirtz down to Morgan Rogers and Fulkrug up to João Pedro. You might look at that and say, I would much rather Rogers and João Pedro or Rogers and Mateta than I would Florian Wirtz or Fulkrug. That's absolutely fine. I want Florian Wirtz, I think. But it's definitely something to consider. That's one of the combinations that I am looking at. But yeah, I would do what I did. Just sit down and think, who are the players that I do not want to compromise on? And Fernandes, Watkins and Wirtz were those for me. Why do I love Ollie Watkins? Again, he is at a nice price point. 5 goals in 5 in pre-season. It's one of the only pre-seasons that Ollie Watkins hasn't had international football, hasn't had an injury, and hasn't had a massive amount of competition, right? You've had the likes of Duran in the past taking minutes off him. He just looks fit, raring to go. He's had good minutes, good goals. I just like the look of him for the start of the season, and I think he is a really nice Game Week 5 captaincy option, and even outside of that, they're just really good opening fixtures for Aston Villa. So by all accounts, I just think Ollie Watkins is super reliable and a really nice option to start the season. So if I put Ollie Watkins in there, and I put the rest of the players that I've got, I'm then left with 6 million. And I actually think Fulkrug is a really nice option. The opening fixtures overall aren't perfect for West Ham. After that Sunderland game, they play Chelsea, Forest, Spurs, Crystal Palace. It's not perfect. Is Fulkrug absolutely fully nailed? No. But is he definitely first choice? Yes. Who else have they got? Wilson isn't fit. They've not really looked to sign anyone else. I doubt they play a front two of like Paquetá and Bowen. Fulkrug looks pretty good for Mins. He scored 3 goals in 4 in pre-season as well. You'll be seeing some screenshots from FotMob on the screen as well. He has had a super, super strong pre-season. I really, really like the idea of starting with Fulkrug, and it just so happens that when I built out the rest of the team, I had 6 million left for that forward spot. He's also got Sunderland away in Game Week 1. That's a pretty fun fixture to have him for. I also think that there is a good chance that one of Beto or Barry nail down a spot. I think it would be more likely to be Barry. We know that there are other 5.5 million mids that could emerge. And that's under the assumption that I just won't make another transfer elsewhere. It might be that I decide to sell Salah or downgrade Wirtz to Gakpo. Let's say Gakpo looks absolutely brilliant in the first few weeks. And I'm like, actually, Gakpo is the one I want, not Wirtz. That frees up 1 million. I can then do Fulkrug to Strand Larsen or Fulkrug to Eva Nilsson. So it's not that I have nowhere to pivot after Fulkrug, but I would say on paper, there's not many places I can go from Fulkrug immediately with having obviously 0 money in the bank. Especially if he starts to stink it up and I start to lose money and he goes down to like 5.8 million, I could be in a little bit of trouble. But he's just not highly enough owned, I don't think, to have a massive price drop. So yeah, I'm not sitting here, by the way, saying that Fulkrug is in the top even 8 to 10 forwards to pick in Game Week 1. But if you do need a cheap forward, I prefer him to the other options. Lots of people are looking at Thiago, but Brentford are making it very clear that they are actively searching for another forward in the market. So I just think Fulkrug is the one at that cheaper price. Obviously, Guiu is not a good option right now, right? He's not fit and available. He's flagged. I don't think he'll probably feature in Game Week 1. Let's see what the update we get is in the press conferences. Guiu right now is just not it. But I think moving forward, a 3-5-2 with Guiu as your 4.5 forward probably makes sense. You've obviously got Krupi Jr. as well of Bournemouth, who might actually be slightly better for minutes in Game Weeks 1 and 2. But I'm looking in the long term here. I think Guiu should eventually get into the starting 11 for Sunderland, and I think he might be okay value. Of course, the main reason is that I'm just trying to facilitate really expensive players. Like, if I've got Wirtz, Salah, Fernandes, Palmer, Watkins in this team. I can't afford to also have a third forward that's like 6 million and above. So that is the 11 as things stand. I'll read that back out for those that are listening rather than watching. Sanchez in goal, Williams, Porro, Juve as the back line, Wirtz, Salah, Fernandes, Palmer and Reinders as the midfield 5, and then Watkins and Fulkrug as the front 2. If I'm to be heavily critical of myself right now, how can I criticise this draft? No 6 million defender. That's a bit weak. The bench is absolute like budget enablers, right? There's only an extra 0.5 more invested on the bench than the cheapest possible bench. Midfield-wise, I love Reinders as a pick, but I have to start him every single week. There is a little bit of risk associated with that. The other players I'm happy with, but I don't necessarily want to start Reinders every week. And then again, I am missing out on the 7.5 million forwards. I've got no João Pedro, no Mateta, no Chris Wood, no Wisser if he gets a move. Like, there are going to be lots of good 7.5 forwards. That Solanke, by the way, I'm recording this again during the Super Cup. If Solanke comes off the bench and looks really good, he's another asset I'd like to own. So I am really missing out on that forward price. But again, the alternative is I downgrade Wirtz to Rogers and upgrade Fulkrug, but then I'm missing out on Florian Wirtz. So you have to make that compromise and sacrifice somewhere. I'd love to know what you think of that team overall. But yeah, this team is currently rated at 97% according to Fantasy Football Hub, so they like it. You can still get a free team rating if you use the link down below in the description, by the way, so feel free to do that for free. And yeah, I really, really do like this team. It is worrying how much I like it, but as always, I'm sure you guys will humble me in the comments. So do give me your honest opinion. Let me know how much it differs from you. And of course, I do absolutely reserve the right to change this over the coming days. So guys, you would have seen in this video that I've been using FotMob throughout preseason to support not only the content, but also my FPL decisions as well. And their app is completely free to download, and it has you covered for everything you could need and more in football, and to help you with all of those FPL decisions. They've even got a fantasy tab in their app as well, by the way, which can help you track the live points too. But there is so much more: stats, fixtures, lineups, whatever you need, they will have you covered. They are also the first app to give freely available to everyone physical data that is available from Opta. So they've got things such as top sprint speed, distance covered, amount of time walking. You could spend hours on the app and you would still find new information that can help you with FPL, but is also just pretty cool to have as well. You've obviously had a bit of a taster of what they can offer throughout this video, and obviously next to me you can see it scrolling along with some of the stuff that you can find on the app, but my best advice is to just give it a download for free. Not only does it support me, but I truly believe you are getting the best free football app on the market, and it will really help you throughout the game weeks, live and after the fact, to help you with those FPL decisions as well. So thank you so much, FotMob. Please do download using the link down below in the description. Let's get back to the video. So guys, I thought just to finish off the video, I'd jump over to Fantasy Football Hub to show you what my team looks like for the next few weeks, but also show you some of those combinations that I'm looking at in terms of how my team might change over the next couple of days before the Game Week 1 deadline, which is fast approaching. As I said, you can still get your team rated for free, by the way. I'll show you how easy it is. Upload a screenshot. I mean, it's done in seconds. That's all you have to do. There'll be a link down below. Do it for free. Why not? And obviously some of the features that I'm going to use in a second, you can get 50% off if you use the other link. So let me save that plan. Let me optimize the team. So it says 96%. If we optimize, it was 97% earlier. Oh, it's because I've got Anderson in this one. There you go. Do you remember I said that I very recently changed from Anderson to Dorgu? Surely that isn't the thing that changes it. No, there we go. If you optimize for future weeks, it changes to 97%. So let me save the plan. I'll keep Anderson in there. It could be Anderson or Dorgu. That's one of the things that I'm really debating. Let me know what you would do down below in the description, in the comments. Let me know what you would do. Right, I'm just chatting absolute waffle at this stage. So one of the things I could do, like I said, is Florian Wirtz down to Rodgers. It could also be Fernandes down to Rodgers, but I think I prefer Fernandes to Wirtz. So if I lose one of them, it will be Wirtz. And the reason I say Rodgers, if you've not yet seen, as of today, which is Wednesday evening, we've seen a picture of Morgan Rodgers in team training. If Rodgers is in training, Rodgers plays. So that's tempting. And then I can do Fulkrug up to João Pedro or Mateta. João Pedro's ownership is a bit scary. He's got better fixtures, but I do love Jean-Philippe Mateta. Is that better? Is Rodgers and João Pedro better than Wirtz and Fulkrug? It's probably... I mean, I just think Florian Wirtz is going to do so well this season. I really want to own him. He's just such a flair pick, isn't he? It's just a player that I want to have in my team. So let's say we go for that. What are some other combinations I'm looking at? The other thing I could do is kind of keep the forward line semi-similar, but just get rid of one of Wirtz or Fernandes all the way down. So something I looked at is like Fernandes down to someone like Iliman Ndiaye or Sarr. It doesn't matter who the 6.5 is. Ndiaye. There you go. That gives me 2.5 million. That would be enough to either upgrade Guiu to like a Strand Larsen or an Eva Nilsson, or I can go up to a decent amount, or really upgrade that defense. So rather than Williams, I could go for Milenkovic immediately. Rather than Juve, I can get up to Munoz. I'd still then have 1 million, which is fantastic. Like, I can even upgrade to Jani Reinders, or I could go Fulkrug straight up to Eva Nilsson. Like, the amount that you can do with your team if you just say, I'm going to sacrifice one of Watkins, Wirtz, Bruno, Palmer or Salah, you can do a lot more to make it an overall more well-rounded, strong squad. But I'm just not convinced that that's what I want to do right now. I think all of those assets I want. So if we just refresh this and look at that team across the first few weeks as it stands. So, yeah, this is the right team, correct. I'm going to put Dorgu back in. It probably won't matter too much. I just love Patrick Dorgu. Again, I'm probably being a biased Man United fan, which is absolutely fair. Sometimes you've got to be. So, Game Week 2, the only thing that I don't like is like my defence looks so terrible. At the moment, I'm playing double Burnley defence against Sunderland. I'd probably end up playing Sanchez just to sort of spread the risk a bit, but I've got Fulkrug. So maybe I go all in on Chelsea just conceding against West Ham and play my double Burnley defence. But you can see I'm either playing like Dorgu against Fulham, Juve against Chelsea. I've got Porro against City. I probably would honestly play myself Nico Williams. I'd probably play something like a Steve Dorgu, Nico Williams, something like that. It's, again, really not ideal overall. But Game Week 2 doesn't look perfect. Game Week 3 is a much better looking team overall, I would say. Like, Fulkrug's got Forest away, which isn't great. But at this point, maybe I start to look to pivot away from Fulkrug. That is an option. I'd obviously bring Dorgu in against Burnley at home. It's one of the better fixtures. I could even potentially, by the way, if I really back the Forest defence, play like a 4 at the back in Game Week 3. That's a possibility. Game Week 4 is another one where my defence stinks. And I've looked at defensive rotations. There aren't many. I should say Anderson of Fulham has Leeds at home in Game Week 4. So that is something that I've looked at in terms of, like, I could have him for Leeds and Brentford in 4 and 5. But I could also obviously just get away with benching Dorgu, starting Fulkrug. It doesn't look quite as bad. It's not an ideal situation, though. I could always free hit in Game Week 4. Because in Game Week 4, you've obviously got Liverpool against Burnley. At the moment, I only have 2. So I could add a third Liverpool. Also, Crystal Palace plays Sunderland. And I've got 0 Palace in this team. So you can see my Game Week rating, according to Fantasy Football Hub, is 83%. I've certainly looked at the possibility of a free hit in Game Week 4. The other week that I like for a free hit, and then this is the final thing I'll comment on, is obviously Game Week 6. Because City play against Burnley at home. So I could pivot to a Haaland draft, which looks really nice. But in Game Week 6, Forest have Sunderland, and I've already got a couple of Forest. In fact, I only have 1, though, don't I? Yeah, because I don't have Elliot Anderson, and I don't have Sells. So maybe, I think 6 on paper probably makes more sense. I can get triple City, I can get a couple more Forest, and then I can obviously tidy up a lot of the areas around that as well. Lots to think about right now. But yeah, let me go back then to my team. So this is the team as things stands. I would love to know, overall, what do you think? What are the weaknesses? Would you sacrifice one of those big hitters, or do you think this is an okay balance as it is? How much does it differ from your draft? And like I said, do check out FotMob as well. I highly recommend it. Completely free to download. There'll be a link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. It really supports me. And like I say, it's free, and I think it will genuinely help you across the season. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 1 team selection, the one we have been waiting for. And like I said, the Game Week 1 deadline is tomorrow. I mean, at the time of you watching this, it could even be today. It's a Friday evening deadline, of course. So hopefully see you on Friday morning for a deadline decisions video. There'll also be a deadline stream on Friday as well. I'll start a few hours before the Game Week 1 deadline. So make sure to subscribe for plenty more content, not only before Game Week 1, but also after as well. Make sure to drop a like as well. Let's aim for 3,000 likes on this video. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.